Good morning. Once again, a place of safety and discipline is shattered by gunfire, this time, Fort Stewart, Georgia. A soldier allegedly turned his weapon on his comrades, wounding 5 and sending shockwaves through the military community. How does violence erupt in one of the most secure environments in our country? What drives a service member to attack their own? These insider threats, tragic but not isolated, form a disturbing pattern across our armed forces. From Fort Hood to the Washington Navy Yard, each incident reveals deep challenges, mental health crises, radicalization, and the strain of service. Today we examine these events, not to sensationalize but to understand, honor the victims, and explore how we can better protect those who protect us. Monday morning at Fort Stewart began like any other, until chaos erupted. Sergeant Quornelius Samentrio Radford allegedly opened fire inside a base building, wounding 5 fellow soldiers. Soldiers responded instantly, subduing the shooter and preventing further tragedy. Their quick action showed the courage and training ingrained in our military. The base went into lockdown, families waited in fear, uncertainty gripping the community. This wasn't Fort Stewart's first brush with violence. Each incident reopens old wounds and raises urgent questions about security. The 5 wounded soldiers now face long recoveries, both physical and psychological. The breach of trust lingers, reminding us that insider threats are a complex challenge for the Department of Defense. The Fort Stewart shooting is a story of tragedy, but also resilience, a community coming together, and a call to address the factors that lead to such events. For Fort Stewart, this is another painful chapter, but also a testament to the bravery and unity of its soldiers. As we move forward, the focus must remain on prevention, support, and healing. To understand insider attacks, we must revisit November 5, 2009, Fort Hood, Texas. Army Major Nidal Malik Hassan, a psychiatrist, opened fire on unarmed soldiers preparing for deployment. 13 dead, over 30 wounded, the deadliest mass shooting on a U.S. military base. Hassan's attack was rooted in homegrown extremism. He had become radicalized and saw his actions as a twisted form of justice. Despite warning signs, erratic behavior, extremist views, his superiors failed to intervene. The tragedy exposed critical gaps in identifying and countering internal threats. Hassan was convicted and sentenced to death, but the pain and sense of betrayal lingered. The aftermath forced the military to overhaul security procedures and focus on insider threats, not just external enemies. Fort Hood's legacy is a somber reminder. Radicalization can hide in plain sight, even among trusted ranks. The massacre changed military policy, emphasizing vigilance and the need to address warning signs before tragedy strikes. The names of the 13 victims are etched in memory, a constant reminder of the consequences of missed red flags. Fort Hood 2009 was a watershed moment, fundamentally altering how the military views security from within. The lessons learned continue to shape protocols and awareness today. The attack's impact endures, driving ongoing efforts to prevent similar tragedies. It's a painful chapter, but one that demands we never become complacent. The threat from within is real and must be met with vigilance, action, and compassion. Fort Hood stands as a warning. The most dangerous threats can sometimes come from inside. 4 years after Fort Hood, another secure facility was shattered, this time, the Washington Navy Yard. On September 16, 2013, Aaron Alexis, a civilian contractor and former Navy reservist, used his security clearance to enter Building 197 and began a shooting rampage. 12 dead, 8 wounded, panic and chaos in the heart of the nation's capital. Alexis, plagued by severe mental health issues, had a history of misconduct and delusions, yet still held a security clearance. The attack exposed critical failures in vetting and information sharing for contractors. Despite warning signs, paranoia, erratic behavior, Alexis slipped through the cracks. The Pentagon responded with sweeping reviews of security and clearance procedures, aiming for real-time monitoring of red flags. The victims were civilians, engineers, IT specialists, staff, serving their country out of uniform. Their loss devastated families and the Navy Yard community. The shooting was a stark reminder. Workplace violence, compounded by mental illness and systemic failures, can erupt even in the most secure environments. The Navy Yard tragedy forced a reckoning with how we handle mental health and security clearances. It highlighted the need for better communication and intervention before warning signs become catastrophe. The lessons learned have shaped reforms, but the scars remain. The attack's legacy is a call to action, Protect our people by addressing both security and mental health. Even in places of history and command, vigilance is essential. Fort Hood faced another nightmare on April 2, 2014. Army Specialist Ivan Lopez, struggling with mental health issues, opened fire after a dispute, killing 3 and wounding 16 before taking his own life. The attack was over in minutes, but its impact was profound, reopening wounds from the 2009 massacre. Unlike Hassan, Lopez's actions were not driven by ideology, but by personal despair and untreated psychological distress. He was being evaluated for PTSD and depression, but had not been formally diagnosed, allowing him to legally purchase a weapon. The tragedy underscored the ongoing debate about firearm access for those with mental health struggles. For Fort Hood, the sense of security was shattered again, raising urgent questions about how the military identifies and treats invisible wounds. The incident spurred further reviews of mental health care and communication within the Army. It was a clear signal. Despite lessons learned, challenges remain in preventing insider violence rooted in psychological distress. The 2 Fort Hood shootings, one terrorism, one mental illness, show the multifaceted nature of insider threats. Protecting service members requires addressing both security and mental well-being. The pain lingers, but so does the resolve to do better. Fort Hood's story is a call to action for comprehensive prevention. Pearl Harbor, a symbol of sacrifice, was shaken by new violence on December 4, 2019. Navy sailor Gabriel Romero opened fire at the shipyard, killing 2 civilian workers and wounding a third before taking his own life. The attack was sudden, brief, and left the community reeling. Romero's motive remains unclear. No clear signs of extremism or severe mental illness, but some personal dissatisfaction and minor disciplinary issues. The randomness of the violence was especially hard for the community to process. The incident highlighted the challenge of detecting insider threats when warning signs are subtle or absent. Romero had access to weapons as part of his duties, raising questions about ongoing psychological evaluation for armed service members. The tragedy underscored the unpredictability of human behavior and the need for vigilance, even without obvious red flags. The loss was deeply felt by families and coworkers, a reminder that violence can strike anywhere. Pearl Harbor's legacy now includes a modern tragedy, one that defies easy explanation. The shooting is a case study in the complexity of insider threats. It calls for better support, monitoring, and understanding of stress within the ranks. Even in places steeped in history, the need for prevention endures. Just 2 days after Pearl Harbor, another attack struck, this time an act of terrorism at Naval Air Station Pensacola. Mohammed Saeed al-Shamrani, a Saudi Air Force trainee, opened fire in a classroom, killing 3 U.S. Navy sailors and wounding 8 before being killed by law enforcement. The attack was premeditated, inspired, and directed by al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. Al-Shamrani's radicalization began years before his arrival in the U.S., raising urgent questions about vetting foreign military trainees. The attack strained U.S.-Saudi relations and led to a suspension and review of all international military training programs. The heroism of the victims, sailors who ran toward danger, stood in stark contrast to the attackers' cowardice. Pensacola was a stark reminder. The threat of international terrorism can infiltrate even our most secure facilities. This was not about mental health or workplace disputes. It was an act of war by an enemy hiding in plain sight. The tragedy forced a re-evaluation of security protocols and international partnerships. The front lines of the fight against terror can be anywhere, even a classroom in Florida. Pensacola's legacy is a warning. Vigilance must extend to all who enter our bases, regardless of origin. The attack's impact continues to shape policy and awareness. The need for robust screening and security has never been clearer. These tragedies, from Fort Stewart to Pensacola, form a painful tapestry of insider threats. Each is unique, but all share a common thread: violence from within, in places meant to be safe. The challenge for the Department of Defense is immense, securing bases from threats that wear the same uniform or carry a valid ID. Strengthening security is vital, but so is supporting the mental and emotional well-being of our troops. Addressing stigma around seeking help is a matter of national security. We owe it to the victims and all who serve to learn, adapt, and foster a culture of support and vigilance. Only by confronting these hard truths can we hope to prevent future tragedies. Thank you for joining us.